So I think this is the reason why we go to parks, to relax. Because it's calming and it's quiet. And the birds actually are in their element. And you can see wildflowers. I put the apples here, but these little flowers. How cute. Different colors. Strawberries, the rain is pouring. I think that's why, even though this has been a hard time for us, we're going to be happy when we see the results. And the earth is going to reap so many beautiful blessings. Look at that. This tree. No pollution. The sky is cloudy right now because it's raining. Beautiful. I'm sure you guys have been seeing the results and the pictures of the area like near Taj Mahal and in California. And you think about how the world is always made to replenish itself. You know what a water fountain is for. I mean, not a water fountain, a waterfall. You know, it has the rocks and it has all these minerals, you know, and it cleans itself. And you think about it like if you left the earth to clean itself naturally, it would be beautiful blues and greens and all the bright colors that grow from the trees. But we have a tendency to keep manicured lawns, you know, so we only see green if there's brown patches, and we put more green and green coloring and all that stuff. But you let the ground grow naturally the way it's supposed to, and you see the colors that come from the earth. So I think you guys should understand that this is something we should take care of, our earth, our planet earth. It's the only earth that we have, you know. It's the only planet out there that's like this. And we were made to take care of the earth and the animals, right? So I think that if we gardened and if we ate off of the earth, the natural food, we would be healthier. Our children would be healthier and happier. We would be outside in the sun getting vitamin D. Our children could play. They could learn how to work hard beside us when they get a little older. We can teach them how to get the red wigglers from the ground and put them in different places where the plants are to aerate the soil. We can teach the children how to spell. You know, what color is that? Red. It's a red flower. R-E-D. Things like that. So it's not just something that just gardeners can do. And my mom is starting to do her own little garden here in the windowsill. And if it wasn't for this coronavirus, it wouldn't have happened. So it's unfortunate because people are dying and it's sad for them, and I understand that and I sympathize with them. But we don't need the processed foods, and we don't need to have the things that people package for us. You know, we can grow those things off of the earth ourselves. You like fresh tomatoes, you know, grow them. You know, all you need is like a staff and good soil and clear all the dead leaves and things like that. And try not to let the vegetables touch the ground because then you could get blight. And it's a lot of work, but it pays off in the end, and people see it. And even people who walk by will be like, "Can I have one?" And it's happened when I grew them in the old yard that I used to have on Robin Street. There was a older Russian lady that came up to the yard, and you know, she grabbed some of the tomatoes, and then when my husband saw her, he came outside the door, and then she ended up leaving. But I was like, oh man, she could have taken them with her. But hadn't I known that, you know, I would have made more. I would have grown some more tomato plants. So you just know that if you're growing something, you can always share. Like you have basil and another person has tomato and another person has something else. You know, you combine them together. Companion planting. And even if you don't have ground outside, you can grow your plants in containers. I did that for a few years actually when we used to live on before I was married, before my son was born. I used to live with my parents on 2nd Street, and they had like this little slab of cement, and I had like 8 to 12 container plants, but some of them were edibles. Like I grew kale, um, and I grew mostly flowers though. So you just try different plants, and also on your schedules. Like now that we're home, we have more time, but once work starts and once people start getting really busy again, you know, measure your time, the time that you can spend on these plants. Um, it's going to be different. So see how often you can water your plant. Are you allowed to water it once or twice a day? Should it get direct sunlight? Should it be in a partly sunny area? Does it need south? Because south light is the strongest. So if you have an east window, that'll get the morning sun. If you have a west window, it'll get the evening sun. And not saying that the north doesn't get it, but the south is usually the side of the house that gets the most light year round. The north side will get some sun, but very, very little. And if it's outside in all seasons, directly in the middle, it will get all the light from all of it. So that's what direct sunlight means. And then if it's a plant that grows in the shade, it probably won't need, it will probably need more moisture. And I'm thinking that because a lot of plants that grow in the desert, they don't want you to water the soil as much because they get rotted easily. And the roots are different, every plant is different. So, do your homework. See if you have, which kind of lighting do you have, your windows directly, what side of the house do you mostly spend your time on, and choose the one window that you want to have like all your plants in, or do you want to have one plant per window, and then just find out which window belongs in each plant, and then what your favorite color is. Or if you don't want to see a flower bloom but maybe twice a year, an orchid might be good for you. You don't even have to water it like that. And you don't want to overwater them either, because they come from tropical areas. So you want to make sure that the soil is just right, like that when you touch it, it kind of, that it's not cold, that it kind of is a little bit warm. It's weird to say, but the dry soil kind of feels warm because it's just there, It feels really hard and hot, right? But if you moisturize it, it'll feel like warm, just a little bit. And then if it's too much water, it'll feel cold. And then if you have African violet, which is the really hardest plant to grow, and I've grown a lot of plants in the African violets. Maybe if I try it again. It's been like a decade since I kept trying, and then I stopped trying, and then I tried again. I think I had like 3 African violets in my whole entire life. So if I try again, but you have to moisturize it from the bottom part of the planter. So you technically don't water it from the top. Oh, and with orchids, you should get a mister, like a spray bottle, and mist it every day. That would be the one thing. You want to keep the area of moisture in the air, more so at the roots. You don't want that. You want it in the air, on the flower itself. And opposite of African violets, you do not want to wet the leaves. You do not want to wet the petals. They feel like velvet and soft, and like they're really furry. And what happens is you don't even wet the soil. You have the container, the plant is up here, beautiful, flat, whatever color it is. Purple's my favorite, the darker purple. And you have a plate underneath that has like a little lip. And so what you do is you take about 4 ounces of water. You get the special food for it. and you pour it in the plate. So you got the plate, right? You have the container. You pour the water inside of the plate, and the container should have holes at the bottom. And what happens is you'll see the water start to dissipate. It'll just start, it looks like it's evaporating, but the roots of the African violet sucks up all the water from that plate, and it'll be literally bone dry. And then that's how the plant, the African violet, eats. Because the roots are so strong, they have to find the water from deep in the sand or soil, wherever they are. So their roots are really, really strong. But those are just some plants. Aloe is pretty easy to take care of. The jade plant is rather fickle. I like jade, and I actually have had jade before. You don't want their soil to be so moist, but their roots are like this big. I mean it. The roots of the jade plant are like this, like an inch. That's it. So if you pick it up out of the soil, you can transport it really easily, but don't move it too many times because it can fall, right? So they're like a bamboo, but the bamboo it's a strong plant. Jade is a little bit different. Never mind, totally different animal, but like they grow like a rod. So maybe that's the only comparison that I'm using. Like the bamboo and the jade plant, they grow like a rod, and the bamboo's roots are really, really, really thin, like really thin. They don't get thicker as they get taller. They just keep growing lengthwise. And the jade plant roots always grow slowly, but they do get tall though. They get very it becomes full. It becomes a bigger plant, wider. But their only difference that a jade plant has as a succulent versus any other like plant or bush that can grow wide-wise is that the jade plant kind of stays like this, right? Their leaves get like a little bit bigger, but they always stay thick. They're like really thick leaves versus like a rose petal, the rose leaf. They're very thin. You can almost see through certain leaves, right? The jade leaves are like, they're succulent, so they're like plump. Let's see what else. I'm trying to think. Oh, like an aloe is a succulent as well. The agave plant is a succulent. And let's see. I like palm trees actually. I can't seem to grow one, but I used to have the small miniature ones, the little palmas with. I think those are like the palm, like where you get palm oil from. It was like those really small sprouted palms trees, but like I don't know if they're miniatures necessarily or if it's just the soil that they're in. Because I do believe that even if you take a very small plant that's small in your house container, it only has but so far to grow. So it can only really stay like here. If you put it outside, will it grow to its full height? Or is it like, like the hybrid plants, they have no other chemistry, like they have no other growth other than what they've been designed to grow as. But I personally believe that if you take anything small that is in a small container plant, if you put it in natural environment that it's supposed to be in the dirt outside, with the elements and the wind and the sun and the moon and all that, I think they can grow enormous. And if you have a male and a female plant, then you will get multiples. So the female plant is the one that buds with the flowers, and the male plant is just a plant that just grows and grows and grows and grows and grows and grows and just gets really, really big, but doesn't produce the little spinners, or it doesn't produce a flower. And a lot of people don't know that that's the difference between the male and the female. Basically, the flower is an egg, right? So, and this is not even to be scientifically like, biological or anything. It's just the metamorphosis. So, all right. Enough talking.